Hey everyone, welcome to today's episode of Empowered in Health. You guys, I am so excited for today's guest. I have Traci Peterson here. She is a mom of three and owner of two different businesses that she's going to share more about. She's also the founder of the Mother-Daughter Movement and a board certified nurse practitioner. I am so excited for you guys to hear her story, hear her perspective, hear all of her heart around health and wellness, and just all of the encouragement that she is undoubtedly going to give to us today. So Traci, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Erin. I'm so excited to be here. I was telling Erin, sorry for the big glasses today because I put peroxide solution in my contact case this morning. So immediately my eyes were burning and I'm like, this is not a good way to start my day. So I just switched out into some big glasses. So I'm excited to hear, and more importantly, I'm excited to see you with good
Yeah.
eyes.
I love it. I love it. And I'm sorry about the contacts and all of those things, but I'm so glad you're here. And, the thing that I always talk about here on the show is we show up imperfectly, right? We show up as real moms doing real things. And I'm so appreciative of your time today, Traci. So I'd love to kind of just jump right in. One of the things that I like to talk to all of the guests that I bring onto my show about is kind of their personal wellness journey, right? Like, tell me a little bit about you and tell me a little bit about kind of your personal wellness journey up to this point.
Yeah. And, I so appreciate this question because I think sometimes as a high performing mom, I don't take the time to stop for a minute and really recognize and realize all that I've been through.
Yeah.
So I truly appreciate this question because it allowed me a minute to just reflect, because I think as full moms with full lives and trying to make a difference not only in our families' lives but in the world, we always are looking at that next goal. Like, what's
Yeah.
my next goal? What's my next goal? What's the next level? What's the next step? And I think it is so important to just stop in the present moment and appreciate and have gratitude for where we're at, but then also take just a sneak peek at the past to see how far you've come and
Yeah.
how much you've grown. And so I really appreciate this question. So my health journey, I mean, I'm a mom of three, and like I mentioned, I'm a high performer. I have perfectionist tendencies. I like to call myself like a recovering perfectionist.
Yeah. Totally
And
relate to that.
it's such an amazing place to be. But I own two businesses and I love living a full life. Like, I operate at my best living a full life. But if I'm not careful and if I'm not honoring and nurturing those things that I value most, then you can feel very easily, burnt out or resentful or whatever the case may be. So really my personal wellness journey, if I think back, I would say I was always a very active kid. I was an athlete growing up. Um, my mom really instilled in me, I was like, I want to play with the boys. Like, I want to play baseball. I want to play all these quote boys sports. And she's like, well, if you're going to play with the boys, you got to be as good as the boys.
Yeah.
And so I really appreciate that. I feel like I was really toughened up at a young age. And I remember thinking, like, somebody's like, oh, you throw like a girl. And I'm like, yeah, I do. And I can throw farther than you. So
Yeah.
it's like owning that girlness, owning that femininity, but still being able to kick butt on the field and on the court. So,
Yeah.
but when I thought back to my wellness journey, being an athlete all growing up, I think if I look back and I look at, like, I call them 1 minute moments, where they're like these pivotal moments in your life that set you off in this trajectory, and you can kind of go back and pinpoint. Usually it's a hardship or something that like really hurts you, or maybe you're given a label or some sort of belief system is made in that 1 minute moment.
Right.
And so when I think back to my wellness journey, it probably starts at a crossroads when I was 15. And I remember I remember going to my mom and saying, hey, I have this dance coming up and I want to feel more comfortable in my dress. Like, what can I do?
Yeah.
And And I think many of us can relate to that, like having some sort of moment like that. But I remember in that moment, and again, my mom did the very best she could with the resources that she had. But she said, well, if you don't feel comfortable, like I can make you bigger salad, like I can make bigger salads.
Right.
Because that's the pattern that she saw. And that's the pattern that she lived. If an event was coming up, she started cleaning up her diet, eating less, more restrictions, so she could feel confident in her dress going to this event. And what's crazy about this, Erin, is that I was 115 pounds.
Wow. Wow.
Like, I don't think I realized at that time, and my mom wasn't calling me fat. She wasn't labeling me anything. It was just, oh, if you want to feel confident, let's make you smaller.
Yeah.
Right? Or
Yeah.
let's start restricting in order to help you feel more confident. And what I wish in that 1 minute moment would have been said was, oh, Traci, what I'm hearing from you is that you want to feel confident. That has nothing to do with what you look like in a dress.
Right.
Okay. Let's sit down and talk about what really makes, a woman feel confident, like, why aren't you feeling confident? Let's talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah.
So that kind of started my all or nothing mentality, where it was either like hyper restriction or binging, right? So it just started this, man, probably like a 20-year battle with disordered eating. And oftentimes it wasn't a full-blown eating disorder, but there's disordered eating, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we know 75% of women have disordered eating. You don't need to have an actual diagnosis. You don't need to be anorexic or bulimic in order to have disordered eating. And so, I think that just kind of started me off on this wellness journey through like a hardship, right? Where I started all or nothing mentality. And then right around in my 20s, I went through divorce. I started having hypothyroidism and other 2 autoimmune diseases at that time because of all that stress.
Wow.
Gained 40 pounds in 6 months because of my thyroid issues. And I mean, if that's not gonna, heighten your insecurities tenfold, I don't really know what will. So I think during my 20s, I just became really, really obsessed, like really obsessed with my body, and sort of had this love-hate, non-trusting relationship with it. And I swear to you, I did like every single diet known to man. And I'm freaking disciplined, man. Like the more restriction, the better. But the other shoe always drops, like you always have to pay the piper sooner or later. And so just kind of this quest for perfection, I think, I don't know what generation you're a part of, but we grew up in a generation where it was like the more emaciated, the better. It was like ridiculously skinny, Abercrombie and Fitch sizing, right? We were trying to change our bodies to fit into a certain size. So really the wake-up call for me in my wellness journey was when I started having kids. And when I realized that I was making a meal for myself, and I was making a meal for my husband, and then I was making a meal for my kids. And I was like, that's messed up. Like, that's super messed up. Like, food should just be food. There shouldn't be diet food, a little less healthy food, and then kids' meal food. Like, what is that? Like, what even is that? I'm like, I unsubscribe from that.
Yeah, totally.
And so I just started getting really, really curious. I started getting really curious because I think I achieved these levels of success in business and in my family and in all these areas. I felt like I had my crap together. But the silent, like, little nagging one was that like negative self-talk, like every morning, first thing when I wake up, and it always had to do with my body or with food or with fitness. And it circled around this like self-loathing. Like I was operating and doing things out of self-loathing, and I thought that that was motivation,
Right.
when really it's just self-bullying.
Totally.
It's just self-bullying. And as a high performer, I would take that negative voice. I'm like, I can't work on this negative voice though, because it's my motivator. It's like my secret weapon. Like nobody talks to themselves and berates themselves and is a high performer like I am, you know?
Right.
And I was like, man, at the end of the day, I'm like, I honestly, I have to do better for my kiddos,
Yeah.
because I would never, ever want my girls to talk about themselves quietly, silently in their heads the way that I talk to myself.
Yeah.
And there shouldn't be 3 separate meals at a meal. There should just be the meal.
Yeah.
And so I just got super curious. And I believe that we are more than our bodies. That's what I teach my moms and daughters in this movement, is that we are more than our bodies. But I think, Erin, that women are simply on a quest for harmony.
Yeah, exactly.
They just want harmony. They want alignment with their body, with their spirit. And I'm a believer. And so it's like aligning our will with God's will. It's like that harmony piece, that alignment piece is really what we're after. And, you know, and through education and just really simple measures of nutrition, I just try to eat a protein, a fat, and a carbohydrate at every meal to help balance my blood sugar. And that's the way that my kids can eat.
Yeah.
And I'm not putting them on a diet. I'm teaching them how to fuel their bodies.
Right.
And each macronutrient has its own purpose. I don't vilify foods. There's no good foods. There's no bad foods. You're going to see candy in our house. You're going to see sweet treats. You're going to see all the things.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just, hey, if you're going to have, you know, if you're going to have those chips, well, let's maybe find a protein to pair with it.
Right.
Right. Because it makes us feel better. It helps us to perform better. So,
Right.
yeah.
Gosh.
Where, I mean, I know that was a lot to unpack, but
So it's so powerful, right? And like I know for a fact that you're speaking into the core of me, right? Like I can feel exactly everything that you're saying and describing as far as your own personal wellness journey, some of the messaging and narratives that you grew up with, right? And just how that has trickled into your life in different ways, specifically when it comes to like the mental health component and the negative self-talk and soundtrack component, because that is a huge piece that women really struggle with and don't always take the time to unpack and understand. And so I'm so grateful for you just kind of naming that and talking through it and really sharing with us how pivotal it was for you to make this shift and get curious, especially when you stepped into motherhood, right? Like that was kind of the moment for you where you were like, I just need to really dig into what I'm doing moving forward for health and wellness, and what is that going to look like, and how am I going to change it, and what do I want to make this forward progress look like for me and my family. And so I'm just so appreciative of your perspective, because it's incredibly powerful and something that women need to hear, because I think we need to normalize that this has really been a part of a lot of our stories, right? And it's okay to unpack it. It's okay to question it. It's okay to change it, evolve away from it, stuff like that. So
and it's
Traci,
okay, and it's okay to still not be perfect in it either.
yes,
And,
totally.
and that's the thing, is I always explain that I'm looking for daily practice, not a daily perfect.
Yeah.
Some days I get it right, some days I get it wrong. And it's like there's never any failures, there's just lessons.
Yeah.
There's just learnings. So in getting curious with nutrition and with fitness, like try it all, like literally try it all on for size. You're going to see what works for you and what doesn't. But the one piece of advice that I would give is, as you're getting curious, like really give it a go. You know, I think so many times it's like, everything's weight focused. And it's like, if I haven't lost weight in 2 weeks, I quit. Right. And it's like, well, if you're more process driven instead of results driven, then you're going to get better outcomes always.
Right.
You will always have more fulfillment if it's not about a result or an end, but it's about the process.
Yeah.
And I've just seen that in every area of my life, in either of my businesses. Don't be results driven, be process driven. Like, what are you building long term, right? In my nutrition, don't just be short sighted, look for long term. And what are those effects of the nutrition? Is it like, I don't know. I have this love-hate relationship with diets. I'm sort of like the anti-diet because everybody's like, oh, well, my diet worked. I'm like, define worked.
Yeah.
Define worked.
Right.
Are your disordered eating patterns gone?
Yeah.
I don't know. Is it just about weight, or are you really here for longevity, for functionality, for bone health, to maintain your skeletal muscle so that you can be functional and healthier and have a healthy metabolism well past your, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s?
Yeah.
What's your mental health doing through this process? Are you short with your husband? Are you snippy? Are you resentful that you're having to make 3 meals? And I'm not saying there isn't a time and a space for seasons. I'm not saying that.
Right.
I'm saying there are times for seasons in your nutrition, but pay attention and have a plan going in, right? A plan going in for a plan coming out, and to maintain it long term. Because be careful with your definition of what's working. Because if it works, you get there, maintain there, and then you'll make a new goal.
Right.
And the goal doesn't always have to be getting smaller.
Right.
That was a shift for me in my nutrition and in my fitness, is when I shifted my goal from being skinny to being strong.
Yeah.
And that's what I teach my moms and my girls. We're here to be self more, not self less.
Right.
Like, we're here to become more of who we were created to be. We're here to become the best version of ourselves. Right. Not the least version of ourselves and the smallest version of ourselves, and take up less space. Yeah. And be the one eating the smallest meals. Right. And so that shifted for me big time when I focused on being strong and not just being skinny.
I love that. And the journey part is that's huge, because that really is the key. When you want to make that shift from focusing too much on the skinny narrative or the smaller narrative, it really is this mindful mindset shift of, I'm now going to be focusing most on what are the habits that will serve me for the long haul, right? What do I want my life to look like, and more importantly, feel like for many years to come? So again, Traci, I can't thank you enough for just sharing your heart, sharing your perspective, talking very real and raw about kind of how you grew up and how your perspective has changed. And now, with where you are in motherhood, with where you are in building your businesses and the mother-daughter movement and so much more, share with us why you feel like living a healthy lifestyle really matters. Like, why is that something that you feel like you want or need to prioritize in your life?
Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest thing is that I believe that mothers are leaders, and you lead best by example. Mm-hmm. In business, the best leaders lead by example, and they lead with love. Mothers are leaders. We're leaders of our homes. Mm-hmm. Women are leaders of communities. You're leaders in your workplaces. Your women are leaders naturally. In order for us to be the most effective leader possible, we have to lead. We have to lead by example. And I know that the patterns that I'm living or that I'm not living are going to carry on in the next generation. Right. So truly, as high-performing women, who I love so much, who are all mothers are high-performing, whether you work inside of the home or outside of the home. Right. But that leadership, ownership piece, that that is your real legacy, is what patterns of thought, what patterns of behavior, what patterns of fitness, of nutrition are we leaving in that next generation? Yeah. Legacy is not leaving something for someone. Legacy is leaving something in someone.
Right.
And so what legacy are we leaving in our children? What mindsets, what thought processes, what's our default, you know? And I think that's a good check-in as moms, and maybe even a good little exercise to write down if you know, people are taking notes, is it's what legacy do I want to leave?
Yeah.
Because if you don't have a vision of what you want your life to look like, or the woman that you want to be, or the mom you want to be, we have to create it first, like visually, spiritually, right? We have to see it first before it can be.
Right.
And so even just writing down, like, what legacy of health do I want to leave in my kids?
Yeah.
And then knowing that it first starts with you.
Yes. Such a powerful, reflective question.
Because and you know this, like in leadership and in organizations, like your team, or in motherhood's case, your family, your kids are going to do twice of what they see you do wrong and half of what they see you do right.
Right. Right.
And that's just the reality. It's like, oh man, that like really sucks. But it's the truth. It's like, it's the super truth. And we all know, like, even thinking back to our own childhoods, it's like, oh man, if it was a do as I say, not as I do, I'm like, I'm doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Like I'm not seeing the fruits of your lack of labor. Like, how does that even, it's not helpful. And you know, with moms, I think moms they're the most well-intentioned people, right? And
Right.
the best intending moms, oftentimes we project our insecurities onto our daughters,
Right.
onto our children, really. And so if we're not careful, some of those negative patterns of our past are going to continue to repeat themselves.
Right.
Unless we create something new, unless we break the chain, unless we have a different kind of vision and are willing to step into that vision and live in that potential each day with each decision. And, you know, I think that is so powerful because we don't need any help beating ourselves up anymore than we already do.
Right. Totally.
We don't. However, it also doesn't mean that it's just like, I'm okay with being who I am and this is just me. It's like, there's evolution. Like,
Yeah.
we evolve.
Right.
Do you want to be the exact same person that you are 5 years from now that you are today? I sure as heck hope not. I don't.
Right.
I want to continue evolving. And the only way to continue evolving is to continue to learn and to continue to try new things and to continue to educate yourself. And again, tweaking and finding the patterns and the systems and the habits that serve you best. And it's a process. It's a total process.
It's a huge process.
Yeah.
And I love how you said, like, just this kind of backing up to what you said inside your wellness journey, this idea of like that it's never going to be perfect and you have to practice in order to make progress through it. And it's just, even with your vision and the legacy that you want to leave in your kids, like it's forever going to be an evolving thing.
Yes.
And I just appreciate just that mindful, like, focus on how we have to be making those choices, those proactive, mindful choices around wellness, around legacy, and so much more.
Yeah. And
Traci,
giving us and having compassion.
yes,
Like, having compassion on ourselves when we get it wrong. Because isn't that the true legacy that we want
yes,
to leave is in our kids? Hey, when I get it wrong, I never leave it wrong. I always
right,
right. Right? It's like, as parents, we screw up. Like,
right,
I yelled at my son last night, legit, straight up, lost my ish.
yeah,
And I was like, oh, you know, like right after you do it and you're like,
right. You're just like, oh man, yeah,
oh my gosh, you know?
yeah,
And the power of parenthood and leadership within the home is repair.
yeah,
It's teaching your kids repair. Because if you don't teach your kids repair or small little tweaks, right? Then they think they have to be perfect. And then
Right.
they can never do anything wrong. And then when they do, it starts a whole spiral of other issues. And
Right.
so this morning when I woke my son up, you know, I tickled his back and I was like, hey buddy, I need to tell you something. I was wrong and I should not have yelled at you last night. There's no excuse for it. I was wrong. And I'm really sorry.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to justify my behavior, because did he wake me up in the middle of the night? Yes. Was he losing it? Yes. Was he not caring about the rest of the house that was sick? Yes. All of those things, but it doesn't justify my behavior. And so, you know, I think it's just showing ourselves more self-compassion as mothers, because we have this big long to-do list and we're like, oh my gosh, okay, I'm going to add this and this and this, and I'm going to choose these healthy whatevers. And it's like, okay, so then when we get it wrong, because it will, you will fall off plan, you will get it wrong, you will eventually yell at your child, you will, you know, you'll eventually have something that wasn't on your program, whatever it is. One day you'll miss a workout. It's like, when that happens, what do I do next?
Right. What's the next step?
That's what defines you.
Yep.
It's what you do next.
Yep.
And having a little bit more love and compassion for yourself as a mom when those times come, that's the real legacy you want to teach your kids.
Yes.
We don't always get it right, but we never leave it wrong.
Yeah. And the importance of repair work. I love that. I love that so much. Traci, would you do me a favor and let's kind of switch gears. I want to learn and hear more about your two businesses, and we're going to get to mother-daughter movement and everything you're doing with that too. But I'd love for you to kind of dig into, like, you've talked about personal wellness, you've talked about your motherhood journey, you've talked about like leaving a legacy in your kids and shaping your home and so much more. So I'd love for you to talk about, you know, your passion to serve and how you know, got started in your businesses and what led you to get started.
Yeah, for sure. So my journey is different. You know, I I feel like I was one of those young kids that like I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to go into medicine, and that is what I wanted to do. And then when I decided that I wanted to have a family, I was like, okay, I thought I was going to be a doctor. Now I'm going to be a nurse, but I'm going to kind of be somewhere in between. And I'm going to get my master's degree and be a nurse practitioner so that I can have, you know, a little bit more flexibility. And so I found myself about 7 years into that profession, working in 3 different locations as a nurse practitioner.
Right.
And like eating lunch in my car, like driving from one thing to the next. And I've always been a working mom. That works for me. Like I honor women who work inside of the home. And I say that purposefully because it is so much freaking work. It is so much freaking work. So please stop, give yourself a pat on the back if you work inside of the home. But I found myself like eating lunch in my car, and I'm like, there's got to be a better way to do this. Like I have big dreams and big goals, and I'm smart and I'm educated, but I want to not like work my freaking life away.
Right.
Go to work to build somebody else's dream. Like I want to build my dream. And so right around that same time, again, I just kind of had this desire. It's funny because obviously I'm a believing person. And so I remember saying a prayer like 2 weeks before, and I was like, God, what's next for me?
Yeah.
What's next? Nothing like I need a new career or anything. It was just like more of a passing prayer. I was just like, what's next for me?
Next.
And yep, what's next? Because I think we all kind of feel those little inklings every now and then. I kind of get them every like 5 to 7 years.
Yeah.
And I think it's almost this evolution. I feel like it's that way, even like in your marriage, right? You're like, okay, I'm ready for like this next level of commitment or, you know, emotional security or connectedness or whatever it is. I kind of feel like every 5 to 7 years, we need to check in and make sure that we're evolving.
Right.
But right around that same time, my husband's cousin shared network marketing with me. And I was like, freaking network marketing? Like, what? Want to do this? I don't think I ever will do this. I'm like, but I'll take a look, whatever, right? Because I had some preconceived notions of network marketing, and it's like, oh man, network marketing done wrong is like a nightmare. It's like, work, you know? But I always say that network marketing done right is like the best.
Right.
There's nothing better out there, because I have a traditional business and I have a network marketing business, and the traditional business brings with it so many more headaches, so much more overhead. It's just, it's a nightmare. It really is. Anyway, but network marketing is a dream when done right. When done right. We've all had those bad experiences. But so I dove in, and I kind of shared with you my personality is a little bit all or nothing. I'm like, listen, if I'm going to do network marketing, I'm really going to do it, And so did it. And, working full-time hours as a nurse practitioner, 2 little toddlers at home. I was pregnant with my third child at the time. And I was like, listen, I got to push while I can push before I have to push. Like that was like my mindset.
Yeah.
So in 5 months, we replaced my nurse practitioner income. And then 18 months after that, we retired my husband, Kyle, from his job, because we just wanted freedom, you know?
Right.
Like, I want to travel. I want to serve for my church. I want to be able to give the way I want to give. And there's just this different level of lifestyle and giving that can come when you have residual income.
Yeah.
And so so that we've been really, really blessed, been able to help over 100 people make 6 figures, and more importantly, have the same life and curate the life that they want to have.
Yeah.
And it's been amazing. And it's like, what is sort of most people get started in the industry because of, income, flexibility. And for me, the greatest surprise of network marketing was personal development. Like, what in the world is even personal development? I had never even heard about it, thought about it. And honestly, for the first 6 months, I was like, this is frou-frou stuff. I don't do that. I'm just tough as nails. Let's go, And then I got stuck, and I was just like, stuck doing very well, making 6 figures and whatever. And I realized that in order for me to grow and to hit new levels in my income and in my business, I needed to grow myself.
Right.
And that's a lesson everywhere. If you feel like you're at a lid and you just keep hitting this lid and you're just continuing to repeat these same patterns, it's like, you got to focus on your personal development.
Yep.
So for any of your listeners, if you feel like you're just repeating these same patterns over and over again, start to get curious and ask yourself, why?
Right.
Like, why am I repeating these same patterns? It's like, okay, identify the pattern, and then say, what am I feeling when this pattern presents itself? Right. And that's going to reveal so much. But women and moms specifically, oftentimes we don't take even a sliver of time for ourselves in order to get introspective. Yeah. In order to ask those questions.
Right. And
so for me, that's what my gym time is every day.
Yeah.
That's why I literally was like, even as a nurse practitioner, I was like, what would be amazing is if I could find a career where I could get paid to become the best version of myself. Yeah. That would be amazing, where I get paid to work out, and I get paid to be my healthiest mentally and emotionally and relationally. That would be fantastic. Right. Little did I know that it would come, in the form of network marketing. And that's what it's been for me. Yeah. It's literally like this big, giant personal development program with a compensation plan attached. And then you get to help other people personally develop and overcome their obstacles and hurdles. It very quickly, you realize it becomes less about money and more about people. Yeah. And when you can build people, that's when you build business. That's when you build legacy. That's when you build impact. And there's no amount of money, there's no amount of millions that you can make that could ever take the place of creating significance in somebody else's life.
Right. Right. such a powerful thing to do. And so it's like, it's just such a gift to be able to make that kind of impact, right?
Oh my land. And honestly, like that's what's crazy is I worked in family practice for 7 years. And then I work in the medical aesthetic space now and have for over 11 years.
Yeah.
It's like I have made more impact in people's lives in their physical health, their mental health, their emotional health, their spiritual health than I ever did
Yeah.
working in clinic.
Yeah.
Truly. And I can say that without question. I mean, our business is in 16 different countries and, thousands of people we've been able to impact, but it's if you want to be a part of something bigger than yourself and have a global impact and a global reach, I just have not found anything that even compares to it.
Yeah.
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 So I'm a lover of the industry because the industry changed my life.
Yeah.
It
I love that.
it gave me a greater sense of purpose and helped me to uncover what my potential really is.
Right.
And it gave me a community of people that saw my divine gifts.
Right.
And that is what I was not expecting. Because I remember Erin being 14 years old and sitting in my 7th grade, or no, it wasn't 7th grade, it was 8th grade, going into 9th grade, my 7th period class. And I'm sitting there like waiting for my principal to come overhead on the intercom to announce the winners of student body office.
Yeah.
And although I was praised as a child for all of these like natural leadership abilities that I had all growing up. And when I was 14 and that intercom came on and they were like, we're here to announce the winners of student body office. And they went through like Secretary Crystal Sorensen, Vice President Sunny Dent, President Tracy Osler was my name at the time.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. This is incredible. Everybody in the class was cheering and screaming and hugging me. And I felt so amazing. And I was like, oh, this is it. This is what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
And I remember walking out of the class and walking around a corner to a group of girls, my friends, my girlfriends. And they didn't know I was behind them. And they were like, who does Traci even think she is anyway? Like, I can't even believe she won, blah, blah, blah. And these were like my besties, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Obviously, I'm heartbroken. And I go to somebody that I really love. And I said, why are these girls having a hard time with me?
Yeah.
And this person that I love, that I was looking for validation or for some, consoling, whatever.
Right.
This person said, well, you're too loud. You're too bossy. You're too confident. And it makes people feel uncomfortable.
Wow.
And it literally took my breath away.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was so confused because all growing up, all these divine, natural, innate gifts and abilities that I had, I was celebrated for. But in one moment, everything changed.
Right.
And I then thought it was my job to make everybody else around me comfortable by taking those divine gifts and just turning them down.
Yeah.
And then I also internalized and I thought, man, something's wrong with me. Maybe I am too loud. Maybe I am too bossy. Maybe I am too confident.
Right.
Something's wrong with those gifts. And what I found and what I wish I would have heard was not everybody's going to understand your divine gifts, Trace.
Yes, exactly.
And if people are uncomfortable with your gifts, that's their problem. And they're not your people.
Yeah.
There are going to be people that understand your gifts and celebrate your gifts and want you to grow those and be the absolute best that you can be. And that's what I found in this profession.
Yeah.
That's what I found in network marketing. is a community of people that celebrate you for your gifts. Because I think, you know, I've had somebody, or I heard somewhere that sometimes what we think is wrong with us is actually what's right with us.
Yeah.
Because the world sees your different as difficult, but God sees your different as divine.
Yeah.
And he uniquely created you. He uniquely created me with individual gifts that oftentimes have been labeled in a negative way. So we're so insecure over them. So we just kind of like hide them away and we don't develop them.
Right.
When, oh my gosh, what I learned to do, because I believe that these labels that we're given, especially early on in our life, but you can give yourself a label at any time throughout your adulthood or in your motherhood. We label all the time. These are just stories and narratives that we sometimes even create for ourselves. But oftentimes somebody else said them and then we, you know, internalized them and took them in. But those labels become our limits. And I was like, I can be good, but I can't be too good.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And I can shine, but not too bright.
Yeah.
It's gonna make people feel uncomfortable. And so that's what we talk about in this mother-daughter movement, is that your community counts.
Yeah.
And who you surround yourself with counts. And we're trying to create, and what we are creating is this container where mothers, high-performing mothers and daughters can come and they can personally develop and grow together in their divine gifts. We can identify them and then celebrate them and help to grow them. And women need other women championing them.
Yes, absolutely.
Because there's a war on women right now.
Yeah.
It's like, shoot, if we can keep women separate and isolated and pitted against each other, then we've weakened them.
Right.
We've weakened their influence. Because I believe that when you gather a group of women together, there is nothing that group of women cannot accomplish.
Right.
Hands down. Hands down. And not to take anything away from men. I just feel that, you know, men have their unique divine gifts as well, but so do we as women.
Right.
And that's what really got this mother-daughter movement started, is when my 9-year-old, she's 11 now, but my 9-year-old daughter, Quinn, came to me and she said, this was just after school, like, you know, normal hustle and bustle, TV was on, I was doing dishes. And she goes, hey, Mom, can we do woman lessons? Yes, we can do woman lessons. I'm like, I'm a woman, I'm right here. What do you want to know?
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, oh, like I'm here. Yes, we can. And I'm like, what do you want to know? And she goes, so thoughtfully, she was like, I need to learn how to do my makeup. I need to learn how to put together an outfit.
Yeah. And
I want to know how to cook. And I was like, that is so sweet.
Yes.
Like, so sweet. But then my mom black hole spiral was like, oh, is that all that she thinks a woman is?
Right.
Like what we look like and what we do for other people.
Right.
I'm like, oh my gosh, what about, you know, having opinions and being articulate and expressing those opinions?
Right.
And like, you have, as women, we have this innate divine ability to just connect with people, right? And see people where they are. I'm like, what about that? I'm like, what about being spirit-led, right? Like, we have this gut and this intuition about us. And it's like, how do I teach her that? And I started thinking like, man, has my example or has my voice and has my influence been louder than that of the world?
Yeah.
Because she was so clear on what it was to be a woman out of the world's perspective. It's what you look like, and it's what you do.
Right.
Instead of, who are you?
Right.
Like, who are you really?
Right.
What makes Aaron, Aaron?
Yeah.
You divinely unique. What makes Traci Traci? We
Right.
all have that. And so it's like realizing that and identifying that and then just owning it.
Yeah.
Not trying to compare your gift with anybody else's, because that's the thing, Erin. You have gifts I don't have.
Right.
Gifts that you have mean nothing. Like it doesn't reflect negatively on me.
Right.
I teach mothers and daughters this idea between, so if you get caught in this cycle of comparing yourself with other people, which I think most women do.
Yes. Women do, for sure.
Yes, most women do. And here's the thing. If we want something different, if we want a different experience, we have to be something different.
Exactly.
And we have to not accept that these are just things, right? Because it's like, oh, all women compare. It's just our nature. Bullcrap. Like, I don't buy that. And if we keep saying that that is the way that it is, that's the way it will always be.
Right.
And so why don't we start talking about comparison versus observation?
Right.
We can observe things around us. I can say, Erin, you have dark hair. Erin, you're wearing a sage colored shirt, right? I can observe, right? I mean, like, Erin, you have beautiful, are they hazel eyes or brown eyes?
They're brown.
They're brown. So Erin, you have brown eyes. That's an observation. I can say all of those things, right? Comparison is when I take the observation and I internalize it.
Yeah.
And make it mean something about me.
Right.
Erin, you have amazingly beautiful brown eyes. Ugh, I have green eyes. I wish I had brown eyes.
Yeah.
Ugh, brown eyes are so amazing. Why didn't I get lucky enough in the gene pool to have brown eyes? I would do anything to have brown eyes. Maybe I'll go put in some colored contact. You know, it's like, it doesn't mean anything about me. It's just an observation.
Right.
And that's what I'm trying to instill in my daughter, because she's 11 right now, right? And she's in volleyball and I'm coaching her volleyball team. And it's like, oh man, this is like the sweet spot for me, is like between the ages of 9 and 12, which is why that's sort of the demographic we're working with. As my daughter ages, we're going to kind of evolve our program a bit.
Right.
But if we can teach these girls now, like, you can observe that. Like, yes, your friend has a lovely singing voice. Yes, like, her voice is a little less trained, or whatever it is, you know, it doesn't mean anything about them. It doesn't make them less than or greater than if they have a skill set that somebody doesn't have. It's almost like this beautiful tapestry, right?
Yeah.
Where we all kind of bring our own colors and our own flavors. And it's like, that's when we can provide the most warmth, is when we combine all of our unique talents and gifts together. That's when the biggest impact can be felt and the most like comfort and warmth can be given, instead of keeping us splintered off into these little, you know, shards of fabric. And it doesn't really do anybody any good. It doesn't make really anything beautiful.
Right.
Yeah.
So. And that energy that you just described, like that's the energy that women need, right?
Yes.
Like that comfort and that love and that compassion and that sense of safety of like, this is exactly who I am. And I need people to meet me where I'm at and love me for where I'm at. And just like being surrounded and wrapped in that is so key for just inside out wellness and so much more in your day-to-day life.
Oh, and to just be seen.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to be anything different than who you are.
Right.
And when I say that, you don't have to be anything different than who you are. I'm talking innately. You can still like love your body and be so appreciative for where it is and what it allows you to do in your moment, in this moment, and also still have other goals. Right. Right? To be stronger. Right. There's nothing wrong with that. Right. But I think women just want to be, they want to be seen and valued and worthy. And you're worthy because you were born. Right. You're worthy of love. You're worthy of affection. You're worthy of every emotion. Right. Right. But I just think that is one of the biggest things that I've loved about my business. And one of my gifts, and I don't feel like it is conceited to know what your gifts are.
Right.
But I have a gift of seeing someone's potential before they see it on their own.
Yeah.
And speaking belief into them because I see it before they do.
Right.
And it's been such a gift to like lead these mother-daughter date nights. And as we're going through something that I have, it's called the Divine Gift Guide. It's on my Instagram. It's at Mother Daughter Movement, and it's one of my highlight bubbles.
Okay.
But if you click on that, the Divine Gift Guide, we'll email it over to you. But we walk through this and they answer these 10 questions. And then you can start to see patterns and you can identify what somebody's divine gift is. But when I'm walking around and I look a young girl between the ages of 9 and 12 in the eyes, and I'm like, you are a good friend.
Yeah.
You're a good friend. And she's like, lights up. And she's like, oh my gosh, I am a good friend.
Right.
It's like this idea of strengthening your strengths.
Yeah.
Instead of staying hyper focused on your weaknesses.
Yeah.
Be strengthening your strengths, like that's where the money is. Like that's where, like the joy and the fulfillment and the fulfillment of your potential comes in.
Yeah.
Is when you're strengthening your strengths. But if you don't really quite know what your divine gift is,
right.
or we have many of them, but to have somebody speak it into you, that's why your community matters so much. That's why this movement matters so much.
Right.
Because I can look a mom in the eye and I'm like, you're a connector. Like you're a connector of people.
Right.
That's amazing. And then she starts thinking, because her reticular activating system like turns on and she's like, I am a connector. And she's going to start finding ways of how she can connect people. And it's going to fill her up and make her feel so stinking good.
Right.
And then you can go to someone else and you can say, you see people. That is your divine gift. You see people. Right. You see that person that nobody else sees in the lunchroom.
Yeah.
And you go sit with them. You see that person at church that nobody else sees.
Yeah.
And you go sit by them. When you breathe that life into that divine gift and that strength, they're going to strengthen that strength. And they're going to be like, I do see people. And then they're going to find more ways to see more people.
Right.
And it's like, oh, that's when the synergy just starts flowing. And it is just so stinking cool.
It's powerful.
It's so powerful.
And that's like that validating work of people seeing you, like you've hit it on the head, with just being validated and being seen. It's a massive piece that I feel like mentally and emotionally is crucial for women to feel. And sometimes in our lives, it just gets lost, especially as busy moms. It just gets lost. And all of a sudden we aren't necessarily seen as the person that we are, you know?
Because we get so inundated with all the things and we start, our identity becomes what we do.
Right.
And the hats we wear.
Yep.
And who we serve.
Exactly.
Who we are.
Right.
So if you can, and you know, it's sort of this catch-22. And I have this, I was going to say love-hate relationship with the culture of self-sacrifice, but I'm just going to call it, I have a hate. I don't hate a lot of things, but I have a hate with this sort of self-sacrificing culture, because what our children don't need is a self-sacrificing martyr. Right. What our children need are sturdy leaders. Yep. Absolutely. And you can take on your role as a mother, which is a glorious role. I think it's probably the most important role that we have here on earth. But if we're consistently self-sacrificing and being a martyr and developing all of this resentment towards this role that we've chosen to play versus finding and stepping into our leadership potential because of that role, like we're missing the mark.
Yeah. We're missing the mark.
We're missing the mark.
Yeah.
And our children need to see sturdy leaders. They need to see the behaviors that we want for them in their life modeled.
Right.
So the greatest gift we can give our children is the gift of a mother who believes in herself.
Yeah, exactly.
And who leads herself.
Yep.
Because you can't lead others until you lead yourself.
Right.
Now I'm going to add a caveat to that. That doesn't mean that you just arrive and you have to become perfect before you can then go lead. We have to be okay with imperfect leadership, imperfectly leading.
Yep.
And it goes back to that repair concept. Imperfectly leading is showing people through example. It's helping other people do things that they wouldn't normally do, right? Because they see you doing them and inspiring them to do it. So we have to be okay with being that leader imperfectly. And when we mess up, go back and repair it. And that's what makes us an even better leader.
Yes, exactly right. I love that so much.
But we have to also own the fact that you are the leader in your home.
Right.
Right. And many of our homes, look different. And many of us are blessed to have, co-leadership with a spouse. And maybe some of us don't have that in the home. But regardless, in order to be a good leader as a mom, you have to first learn how to lead yourself.
Yeah, it's so true. And I'd love for you to talk a little bit about, with the mother-daughter movement, how do people get involved in that, right? Like you've talked so much about, identifying your defined divine gifts and really getting to this place of like just really stepping into authentically being you and strengthening your strengths and like just getting into this higher vibe energy and surrounding yourself with people that are really giving you that reassurance and that validation. So I'd love for you to share, like, how can people really dive into being a part of this movement, or how can they, attend an event or just get connected to you?
Yeah, for sure. So what we do with this mother-daughter movement, it's called Be. So it's a place to build yourself while you lift and elevate others as you become who God created you to be. So it's not any one specific denomination, but obviously we talk about God and you'll see some stuff about the Bible, but it's people that it's high performing moms with daughters between the ages of 9 and 12. But I want this, and it's a safe place that regardless of your demographic, I think, or not demographic, but rather your religious preference.
Right.
I wanted to create a place where all denominations could come together and talk about their potential.
Right.
And we can talk about their divine identity. And because I feel like women are grouped enough together, right? And I wanted to create a place where it can be a multi-denominational mother-daughter movement.
Yeah.
And eventually it will be a multi-generational. Right now we're starting with 9 to 12. So we do mother-daughter date nights once a quarter, but we have a big mother-daughter weekend summit coming up June 7th and 8th. And that will be in Cottonwood Heights, Utah. We have people coming from California and Idaho and Arizona. We have got some East Coast people coming in, and we're bringing in the very, very best trainers, speakers to talk about all things like woman lessons. I know I mentioned to you, my daughter asked me if we could do woman.
With your daughter. It's so good.
Yeah. And this is what's really evolved. It's like 7 steps to helping women and their daughters look inward and upward for their validation.
Yeah.
Instead of externally. And so we're having experts come in, and just so you know, girls between the ages of 9 and 12, they just want to do stuff with their moms. They just do stuff.
Right.
It's so cool because their psychosocial stage of development is identity and confusion.
Yeah.
So they do just want to try on all these different hats and try lots of things. And there's nobody in this world that they would rather do it with than their mom.
Yeah.
And so we do activities. It's fast paced. It's not like classroom style, like note taking. We do an activity, and then we talk about a principle, a framework, and then inspire behavior. And then we move again.
Right.
So there's hands-on activities, there's workbooks. We're going to be doing like mother-daughter makeup, and we're having somebody come in and talk about sustainable nutrition from a place of self-love, not self-loathing, which is awesome. And we can't start young enough with that.
Yes. Good. So good.
And we're having another specialist come in to help us like move our body and feel like what good body movement feels like, and all the benefits to that. And then we're going to talk about friendships and how to make meaningful connections, but also how to set healthy boundaries, and helping these girls to understand how they can listen to that inner voice and that intuition to help them make decisions in life. And then we're going to talk about energy, like energy generators, because nobody wants to ever feel like burnt out. And usually that's not when we're honoring those values that we have. And sometimes as moms, we don't even know what it is. I had the most amazing CEO at this last meeting, or this last mother-daughter date night. And she came up to me with like eyes like this big at the break. And she's like, "You've shifted my whole paradigm."
Yeah.
Like, I realize that all of the things that I'm doing in my life, the reason why I'm feeling burnt out is because I'm not doing these 3 things that we identified.
Right.
Like, you've just shifted everything. Like, I think this is going to make the biggest difference for me. So we're also having like an authentic styling expert come out, because that's the fun stuff. There's nothing wrong with those things, you know?
Right.
And so, yeah, we're going to do like a styling workshop for our VIPs if you get one of the VIP tickets. So it's going to be a weekend full of connecting, full of service. We have Mothers Without Borders that's doing a service project that will literally touch your heart. You'll probably be in tears. Your girls are going to love it. And it'll carry on for 6 months. So it's sort of like this 6-month big to do. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be so great.
Cool. What an awesome opportunity. It just sounds like a great event, and a way to really connect not only with your daughter, but with other women, right? And other moms.
Oh, yes.
And I love that you're doing this and pouring your heart and soul into it, and just making sure that we're really paying attention to how this can make an impact for generations to come, right? From a very real inside out wellness perspective. And so Traci, I'm so grateful for your heart, and everything that you're doing, the powerful work that you're doing, this mother-daughter movement, everything you shared about your network marketing business and everything you learned as a nurse practitioner. Just so many powerful nuggets for women to take away, as far as like, how do we really get to this place of digging into who we are and showing up in a way in our day-to-day life that leads into that energy and that feeling of what legacy we want to leave inside our homes and inside our children, and so much more. So before we quickly wrap it up, I have 2 last questions for you, my friend. The first is, on my podcast, I talk a lot about mental health, right? Mental health is really like my jam. And it's the thing that I like to bring to the light as much as possible, especially for moms, because maternal mental health is a really important topic for us to normalize and speak through. And so I want your personal opinion on why you feel like, us coming on a podcast, or women having conversations, or people really, authentically and in a real raw way sharing about their stories is so important for the motherhood community.
I think it's so that we know that we're not alone.
Yeah.
Because I think there is this allure because of social media for perfection. We think that everybody has the perfect family or the perfect life or the perfect situation, or I'm going to do this meal plan and poof, I'm going to have this perfect body and this perfect whatever.
Yeah.
And I think it's important for us to come together and talk about the reality, just so you know that you're not alone.
Yeah.
Every mom is literally trying to figure it out right alongside with you.
Right.
Like, we're raising our children while we're raising ourselves. And as we continue to develop as individuals, because your individual development doesn't stop just because you become a mom.
Right. Exactly right.
And I sometimes think that inadvertently, again, going back to that self-sacrifice piece, we self-sacrifice and maybe we stop evolving as an individual, as a human, because I was a woman and I was Traci before I was a mom.
Yep.
And so giving yourself permission that it's okay to continue to evolve as an individual outside of your family responsibilities. And that's only going to enrich and bless what happens inside of your home.
Yes.
And it's critical. In my opinion, it's critical.
Yeah.
Because why would we say like, oh, you can be whatever you want to be when you grow up. You can do anything until you have kids.
Right. Right.
Sometimes that's the message.
Right. Inadvertently, it can be for sure.
Inadvertently, it can be, and it's like women especially, I think we feel like we have this dichotomy where it's like I can either be a connected present mother or fill in the blank, or I can prioritize my health,
Right.
or I can be a successful business woman,
Right.
or I can serve in my community, whatever that is. I can either be a connected present mother or I can be these other things.
Yeah.
But what we need to realize is there's this great big giant and
Yeah.
in there. Remove the or, replace with an and in big giant letters, because you can be a connected present mom and so many other things.
Right.
So many other things. And you should do all of those things because your kids want to see you do it too. Your kids want to see you succeed. Your kids want to see you struggle and keep your word and push through. I mean, there's a whole other story, going back to my fitness journey with having mom guilt for 4 months that I left my 2-month-old baby at home or 3-month-old baby at home for a 30-minute drive every day that I went to the gym.
Right.
The negative self-talk. You worthless piece of crap. You are so vain. How dare you leave your baby and pay somebody $20 an hour to watch your baby so you can go to the gym?
Right.
Like that was the conversation for 30 minutes.
Right.
And it took me 4 months of mom guilt. 4 months of mom guilt, almost every single day, to finally start to see the rewards and the benefits of what it was doing for me personally.
Yeah.
I showed up happier. I showed up with more energy. I didn't lament and loathe my day. I didn't just survive. I started to thrive.
Right.
I started being a better wife. I started having more success in my business because I was pouring into myself.
Right.
And there's nothing selfish about taking care of yourself.
Right. And women need to hear that, right? Like what you just said, women need to hear for 2 reasons. 1, to normalize that those like thoughts and feelings are very real. And 2, so they can get through this process of giving themselves permission, because it helps you, like you said, show up for you and for your life in a much better capacity.
And just stick with it. Everybody feels mom guilt.
Yep.
Even who you think is the most perfect mom who has it all figured out, she feels mom guilt.
Yeah.
Whether you're a stay-at-home mom or a working mom, you feel mom guilt.
Right.
Okay. It's just how long you're going to allow it to be around to influence and affect you.
Yes.
That's why it took me 4 months.
Yeah.
Now it's a lot faster because I feel like that was sort of my first like real legit go round with it.
Yeah.
And it took me 4 months of feeling it almost every single day. And then finally I started shifting. So don't give up on yourself.
Don't give up on yourself.
Don't give up on yourself.
So important, Traci. Okay, last question, my friend, and then we'll kind of wrap it up. And I want to make sure you share how people can find you and how they can stay connected to you and all the things. But this is a question I ask everybody that comes on the show because I love to hear everybody's unique perspective and kind of what speaks to you most. So when you think about either a quote or like a mindset mantra or something that you've seen or heard
Yeah.
in your day that reminds you the importance of taking care of yourself and nurturing yourself amongst all the demands of your busy life, what would that look like? What would that quote be, or what would that saying be?
Such a good question. Such a good question. And mine is going to be probably not your typical answer.
Which is great. It's perfect.
Yes. So, what helps me to keep everything into perspective when honoring myself and my wellness journey inside and out? The quote would be from Matthew 22, where we learn about the two great commandments. One is to love God, the second is to love your neighbor as yourself, as you love yourself. We forget the last part.
Right.
We focus on loving God and loving our neighbor, which is like our family and service and all those things, but we forget to love ourselves. And so making it a priority to love yourself, to develop yourself, to become the best version of yourself allows you to better honor God and to better honor your neighbors.
Yep.
And honor your family and your children. So I literally think of that all the time. It's the as you love yourself.
God, it's so good because it's the piece we miss sometimes.
You can't give what you don't have.
Yeah. Which is such an important reminder.
You can't give what you don't have.
Yeah. Such an important reminder. Traci, I literally am speechless. Like I cannot thank you enough for just your incredible conversation today, right? Like your perspective, your heart, speaking about your businesses, speaking about some of your struggle and your personal perspective, talking about how passionate you are related to the mother-daughter movement and the incredible work you're doing there. I want to make sure that everybody that's tuned in today can find you. So can you quickly share like a website, social, how can people get in touch with you?
Yes. So for the mother-daughter movement, our Instagram is at mother-daughter movement. And then my personal Instagram is at tpete, T as in Tracy, Pete as in Peterson. And then if you want all the details about the mother-daughter movement or to get tickets, and I have a special code that I'm going to give you too, you can go to tracipeterson.com. Tracy's with an I, Peterson's with an O-N. And if you enter BBG 10 at checkout, you'll get 10% off.
Great. Oh my gosh, so awesome. And I will make sure everyone has all of these details in the show notes of this podcast. We'll make sure all the links are there, the codes listed, and you have all the details to make sure that you can get connected to Traci, get connected to the mother-daughter movement if that's something that you want to explore, and hopefully just continue on with connections on so many things related to motherhood, wellness, business, all the things. So Traci, thank you so much for your time today. Cannot thank you enough for being here, my friend.
You are amazing. And thank you for creating this space for women to come on and share their stories, their real, raw, true stories. And know that every mom feels overwhelmed. Every mom, struggles with maybe finding herself again. And so I love that you've created this platform, Erin. And like we sort of fell in love when we were a quick fall in love, you and me.
Yes.
And that's what it should be when strong women who are motivated to help people come together. So I just appreciate you.
Oh my gosh, absolutely, Traci. Thanks so much for your time, friend. See you guys in the next one.